Welcome back, A-Pushers. This is Mr. B History with part 2 of chapter 22. It's World War I and its aftermath, 1914 to 1918. Let's get straight to it. Fighting the war. In part 1, we talked about the cause of the war and reasons for U.S. involvement. Now we're going to be talking about fighting the war and the after effects. Fighting the war, trench warfare. It's a war of attrition. Machine guns, poison gas, flamethrowers resulted in millions of casualties and a stalemate. Neither side can win. Boom, boom, boom. 3 years of fighting each other. Naval operations. That means boats. German submarines were very effective at sinking U.S. boats. Convoy system and building more boats was the answer to the problem. The American Expeditionary Force, led by General John Jack Pershing, J.J. Pershing. U.S. troops only saw limited fighting. Their most significant battle was the Meuse-Argonne Forest Offensive. In this offensive is where Alvin York kills 25 people in one day and wins the Congressional Medal of Honor for killing lots of people. Yeah, that could be something that you should remember. Alvin York, War Hero, Congressional Medal of Honor. 11/11/1918. It's Armistice Day, when Germany agrees to stop fighting. This also becomes known as Veterans Day. U.S. casualties, about 550,000. Also, hundreds of thousands more died from the Spanish flu. Pandemic. It was a global pandemic, the Spanish flu. Making the peace. The 14 points. Woodrow Wilson's plan to prevent future wars. When he said we're going to make this a war to end all wars, he was talking about his 14 points. They included freedom of the seas, so that no more blockades, right? That started World War I. Woodrow Wilson may be idealistic and his moral diplomacy might not always work, but he was very, very smart, and he realized what the causes of World War I were: militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism, and his plan to prevent future wars was to prevent this. So freedom of the seas would remove the U.S. reason for entry. No secret treaties would help minimize alliances. Reducing national armaments would help end militarism. Adjusting colonial claims would help end imperialism. Self-determination would help for nationalities. That would help stop nationalism as a cause for war. And of course, his baby, the League of Nations, an international organization meant to promote peace. All the countries were supposed to join and talk about their problems instead of fighting their problems. The big three. The big four, but the big three are England, France, and Italy, and now apparently the United States, after being on the winning side of World War I, has cemented itself as a world power, and not just any world power, but one of the big world powers, one of the top 5 powers in the world. At the Treaty of Versailles, Woodrow Wilson himself goes to Paris to implement his 14-point plan. It is overrode by the other big three, who are just focusing on trying to get money and power and punishing Germany, their rival. He had to compromise on all his points because there's 3 of them and only 1 of him. And so he finally only got them to agree to having a League of Nations. The peace terms. The Treaty of Versailles was not a very good treaty. Germany was disarmed, all their weapons gone. They were stripped of all their colonies. They were forced to pay war reparations to the tune of like $2 billion. They had to admit that it was their fault there was a war, which is not exactly 100% true, but who cares? They had to admit it. The map of Europe was redrawn to create new countries like Poland, and new nations were created. And then everyone who signed the treaty agreed to join the League of Nations with Article 10. Article 10 was part of the League of Nations covenant that said each country would be ready to protect the territorial integrity of all other countries, i.e., if someone in the League of Nations got attacked, then every member of the League of Nations was bound by the covenant to defend that nation. This is going to cause lots of problems here in the United States. The battle for ratification. Wilson needed 2/3 of the Senate to approve the treaty. The Republican senators opposed Article 10 because it limited U.S. freedom and was seen as an entangling alliance. Bonus points at the end, if you can tell me where they got this idea that America should stay clear of entangling alliances. Mr. B History bonus points on the line. Put it in the comments, yo. Increased partisanship after the war. Republicans win control of the House and Senate in the midterms elections, and they disagree with the Democrats, the opponents. There's 2 groups, the irreconcilable, so they would never join the League of Nations no matter what. And the reservationists would join as long as they made certain changes, especially getting rid of Article 10. Wilson goes on a tour of the whole United States trying to rally public support for ratification of the treaty. He gives lots of speeches, has a stroke, and is paralyzed on the left side of his body, and is basically bedridden until he dies. Rejection of the treaty. The Senate rejects the treaty without the reservations. From his deathbed, Woodrow Wilson tells the Democrats to vote against his own treaty. If it comes up with reservations, they do, and they defeat the treaty. So the Treaty of Versailles is never ratified, and the United States never joins the League of Nations, which is going to be a big whoopsies and may contribute to World War II. A lot of people are like, what caused World War II? The peace treaty after World War I. Post-war problems. Demobilization. Unemployment is up because all the guys coming back from the war are looking for jobs. Production is down because you don't need all the supplies for the war anymore. Farm prices fall because of overproduction, because they were told to produce more food for the war, and now the war is over and they don't need to. The country falls into recession. A Red Scare, a fear of communism. This is Red Scare Part 1. It's fear of communism. Russia turns communist in 1917, and so we have a fear of communism, a fear of labor unrest. It fueled xenophobia, a fear of foreigners, and resulted in restrictions on immigrations in the 1920s, as we'll find out later. The Palmer raids. There were some unexplained bombings led to the creation of the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover, who arrested radicals, anarchists, socialists, and labor activists, and deported foreign-born radicals. Labor conflict. Public opinion goes against labor unions after they've been generating a lot of positive support during the Progressive era. Now, all of a sudden, people turn against labor unions once again. There was a series of strikes in 1919, and the government helps crush these strikes. Race riots. Racial tensions led to race riots in several northern cities. One of the effects of World War I is the Great Migration of African Americans moving from the rural south to the urban north. And now we see that some of these tensions are boiling over in the big cities. The end. Until next time, this is Mr. B History saying, oh, wait, bonus question. Put it in the comments. You can see what it says right there. So long, A pushers, farewell. And may the U.S. history knowledge be with you and stay with you until the AP exam. Out.